Discover the amazing gift that transformed a 19-year-old bride's life, silencing a town forever. Emma Thompson stood in front of her mirror, a veil cascading down her back like a shroud of uncertainty. The soft rustle of satin whispered promises of love, but her heart drummed an uncertain rhythm, echoing her family's troubled past. Tomorrow she would marry Jake, her high school sweetheart, yet the very idea of stepping into a future felt laden with the weight of disappointment and generational struggles that had always overshadowed her family. As she adjusted the delicate lace, her thoughts spiraled. Was she repeating history, or could love break the cycle? The night before her wedding, an unexpected letter upended her thoughts. The handwriting was unmistakable, her late grandmother's elegant script. Within it lay a revelation, an art collection, pieces buried in time, perhaps waiting for her to uncover. It hinted at a transformative legacy, a treasure potentially profound for an art world starved for authenticity. Curiosity wrestled with fear. Could plunging into this inheritance alter her family's narrative, or would it deepen their struggles? Emma's mind raced. The small, rustic Midwestern town where she had grown up was steeped in tradition. Aspirations beyond bridal bliss were often regarded with skepticism. What would her parents say? More importantly, what would Jake think? As she stowed the letter away, she felt that inner tug of a suppressed passion that whispered of color, brushstrokes, and emotion. Her grandmother had seen beauty in the world, and Emma felt that urge too, rising like a forgotten flame. But the looming wedding weighed heavily on her heart. Adventures indulged in art could invite disapproval, fracturing not only her dreams, but also her relationship with Jake. Glancing at her phone, a message from Jake illuminated the screen. Just words of love, yet they felt like bars of a cage. Planning the wedding had consumed their conversations. How could she voice her desire to step outside that role? Tension burgeoned in her chest. Something stirred that begged to be unleashed from within. But was this the right moment? Would Jake's family resent any choice that threatened small-town peace? The worry gripped her like a vice, squeezing the breath from her lungs. As she thumbed through her grandmother's letters, relief morphed into dread when she discovered pieces of family history hinting at secrets that could shatter the facade she'd built around her identity. What if embracing her grandmother's heritage through art unlocked not only her own creativity, but also truths too raw for this town to bear? Would she dare? The thought lodged like a stone in her throat. With each letter, each revelation, her vision of the future twisted. Would Jake support her, or would he side with tradition and community consternation? Emma stood at an emotional precipice, heart racing, wrestling with identities and expectations, torn between the life planned for her and the one screaming inside, finding expression in colors yet unseen, voices unheard. Would she vanish in the quaintness of the town, or could she inspire change? The night before her wedding, she faced uncertainty like never before, destiny unfurling before her like a blank canvas, awaiting a single courageous stroke. Would she grasp the opportunity that lay ahead, or remain silenced by the weight of expectation? Emma awoke to the faint morning light filtering through her bedroom window, casting gentle patterns on the walls. The remnants of last night's turmoil still hung in her mind, a storm of doubt clashing against the tranquil facade of a wedding day. Today was supposed to mark the beginning of forever with Jake, but the shadow of her grandmother's letters loomed larger than her wedding gown. Standing in front of the mirror again, Emma took a deep breath, allowing herself a moment of reflection. The woman staring back at her wore a smile, yet the eyes betrayed her inner conflict. Could she really dismiss the calling of her grandmother's legacy? What if all of this, planning, celebrating, marrying, diverted her from a path of her own choosing? The question itself felt like a rock pressing down within her. "Are you ready, Emma?" Her mother's voice interrupted the quiet. It was laced with excitement, but also an expectation Emma felt suffocating.
"Your hair looks lovely. I can't wait to see you in your dress." "Thanks, Mom," Emma replied, though her voice sounded hollow to her own ears. While her mother hustled around, adjusting decor and fussing over last-minute details, Emma felt herself drifting. She was supposed to be swept up in the joy of the occasion, yet her thoughts turned to the art collection she had yet to explore. Could those untapped canvases and forgotten sculptures hold the key to her identity? What if she could perform a miracle of her own by breathing new life into them? The door creaked open, and in walked Jake. The sight of him in his tailored suit ought to have ignited warmth in her chest. Instead, Emma felt a surge of anxiety. This was the man who had been her safe haven throughout high school. Yet what if he could only love a version of her, crafted to fit the town's molds, bright, compliant, but ultimately unfulfilled?
"Hey, beautiful," he said, a smile plastered to his face, making her ache with a mix of love and frustration. "Are you excited for today?" "Excited, yes," she answered hesitantly, "but I have something I need to talk to you about." Jake's expression shifted, curiosity mingled with concern. "Okay, what's on your mind?" The clock ticked ominously in the background, but Emma had to discover if the boundaries of their love were as wide as she hoped. "It's about my grandmother's art collection. I found some letters, and I think I want to explore that side of my family. I feel an urge to create, to paint, to connect with who I am." Jake's brow furrowed. "But what about this? Us? Our life together?" The room seemed to close in around her as anxiety gripped her heart. Did Jake see her desire as a betrayal? As if on cue, the door opened, and Emma's mother called out, urging them to hurry. Time was relentless, pushing Emma between her burgeoning creativity and the expectations wrapped around her like the lace of her gown. "Can we talk about this later?" Jake asked, the concern in his voice deepening. "I want you to be happy, but we also have to—" "Have to what?" Emma cut him off, surprise mingling with a burgeoning anger. "Conform to what everyone else wants?" Silence draped over them, tension coiling like a tight spring. The words hung heavy, and each second felt like an eternity. Emma faced a choice: back down into the safety of tradition or leap into the unknown, risking everything for the authenticity she craved. As Emma prepared to step into her wedding shoes, she became acutely aware that this wasn't merely the day she said "I do," but potentially a moment when she would define who she wanted to be in the world. Would she embrace her grandmother's legacy or remain tethered to an identity crafted by others? "Emma, are you ready?" her mother called again, but this time it didn't echo urgency, it reverberated a challenge. "Not just yet," Emma whispered, the decision sitting like fire in her belly. Today she would reclaim her voice, and in doing so, she might just reframe the very narrative of her life. Emma turned back to Jake, determination sharpening her gaze. "We need to find a way through this together. Will you stand by me?" As their eyes locked, a palpable shift occurred, the weight of their future hanging thick with uncertainty. Could they navigate the changing currents of their love, or were they about to embark on a divergent path? Emma's heart raced at the thought, while she prepared to step into the unknown, feeling a singular truth pulse through her. She wouldn't just become a bride today, she intended to become the artist of her own life. Emma's heart pounded in her chest as she stood there, poised between the world she had always known and the tantalizing possibilities of the unknown. Each passing second pulled her further into a conflict that felt bigger than the day itself. Together?
Jake's voice was tinged with apprehension as he took a step closer. The warmth of his body brushed against her, an anchor that both comforted and confined her. "What do you mean? Exploring your grandmother's art collection? You're talking about a whole new life path." "Yes," Emma responded firmly, locking on to his gaze. "It's about that and more. It's about who I am underneath all of this, the lace, the makeup, the perfect bride expectations. I want to know my roots, to create like she did. I feel this pull, and I can't ignore it." His brow furrowed deeper, and the painful doubt that etched itself on his face made her want to retreat, yet something held her steady. "But what if this changes everything we've built, Emma? What if you lose sight of us?" The words stung, a painful reminder of the weight of expectations. Did he not see that she could be both? "I'm afraid of losing me too, Jake. But if I don't explore this, won't there always be this shadow of what if? There's—" She hesitated, weighing the tilted scales of her love against her burgeoning independence, when the door swung open. Her mother's voice burst through, full of joy and impatience. "Come on, Emma, it's time." "Just a minute," Emma called back, as the tension surged higher. She suddenly felt the suffocating heat of tradition close in like a living thing. Was this what generations of women had felt on the precipice of their weddings? An urge to break free, tangled with a sense of duty? "I need to think." Jake's tone was softer now, but hesitant, a crack in his earlier firmness. "Think about what?" Emma countered, her frustration boiling up again. "Think about fitting into a mold? About sacrificing our dreams for security? This is my moment as much as it is yours." For a fleeting instant, Jake appeared uncertain, the facade of his unwavering support fraying at the edges. Just as the panic threatened to consume her, clarity ignited within her. "I don't want to run away from us. I love you. But if I walk down that aisle without knowing who I am, I'll be marred forever by regret." Silence enveloped them again, their breaths intermingled with the weight of unsaid words. Time moved like molasses. Emma considered the vibrant colors of her grandmother's paintings, the strokes that danced with life, each a testament to a woman who had chosen creation over constraint. "I want to be like her, to create my own art, my own life." Finally, Jake broke the silence. "So, how do we proceed? I don't want to hold you back, but—" His voice trailed off, revealing the crumbling foundations of their future. A flood of vulnerability coursed through Emma. "Let's explore this together, but honestly. If it drives us apart, then we'll have to face that." Suddenly, a wave of contradiction washed over her. Here she was, moments before walking into a lifetime commitment, holding a conversation that could dismantle everything. Yet she felt alive in a way she had never expected.
Taking a deep breath, she stepped closer to him, eyes blazing. "What if we commit to understanding this journey? My art could intertwine with our life together. Our life isn't necessarily going to be just like everyone else's." Jake studied her intensely, and an odd sense of optimism stirred the air between them. "I want to try, but promise me, Emma, we won't let this turn into resentment." "Then let's promise," she said, heart racing, "to navigate through this side by side, no matter what it brings." As they stood there, confronting the uncertainty of their future, the palpable tension shifted. What had once been a daunting decision morphed into a shared vision, a delicate dance of creation and commitment. Emma smiled, bolstered by an unexpected surge of courage. But even as they shared this glimmer of hope, a nagging worry tugged at her heart. The letters her grandmother had written still awaited her attention, urging her to dig deeper into her past. Would the truth they revealed entwine with the shift she felt brewing within? As the sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the intricate fibers of her wedding dress, Emma understood one thing clearly. She wasn't just stepping into the role of a wife today. She'd also be the artist ready to paint the canvas of her life anew. And as she turned to finally take that first step toward her future, a lottery of mysteries and long-buried family secrets loomed ahead. Would the journey reveal more about her grandmother, or would it lead her to unexpected confrontations with the life she thought she wanted? The path ahead sparkled with promise and danger. As Emma stepped into the bright sunlight, a blend of excitement and trepidation swirled within her. The air felt different. It was charged with the weight of decisions that had been hanging like a cloud over her for too long. Each step toward her wedding felt like stepping into the unknown. She was not just walking into a new life with Jake, she was on the brink of rediscovering herself. As she reached the altar, the faces of family and friends blurred into the background. They held expectations that felt heavy on her shoulders. While her heart raced at the thought of the vows she was about to take, the echoes of her grandmother's artistic spirit roared just as loudly within her. Would this path allow her to honor that spirit? With every stride, Emma's thoughts flashed back to the letters. Her grandmother had left those with love, but also urgency, a call to action that she couldn't ignore. Ignoring them felt like ignoring a part of herself. Did she owe her grandmother this exploration? Wasn't it time to pick up the paintbrush and create her own masterpiece? Once the ceremony reached its peak, vows exchanged, rings slipped onto fingers, Emma felt a flicker of panic. How would she balance her promise to Jake with her newly ignited passion for artistry? A promise of love mingled with desires that pushed against the boundaries of tradition.
The moment through the lens of her grandmother's life loomed large. Would the art she discovered become a window into a deeper understanding of who she was? Would that world of paint and canvas help bridge the growing chasm of her dual identity as both a wife and an artist? Do you, Emma, take Jacob to be your lawfully wedded husband? The officiant's voice broke through her internal tumult. Yes, she heard herself say, but the word felt like a fragile thread tethering her to something she was still trying to comprehend. The celebration that followed was filled with laughter, smiles, and moments that felt genuine, yet there was an unmistakable undercurrent of tension. The dancing, the twirling of her guests turned into an external reflection of the turmoil swirling inside. She watched her relatives engage in small talk about her future, sharing platitudes about marriage and commitment, but those words felt hollow against the vision she carried inside. In a quiet moment, she stole away to the side of the venue, her heart thundering. There, under a canopy of softly glowing fairy lights, she opened her purse to retrieve the stack of letters she had tucked away. Fingers trembling, she unwrapped the first one. The letters whispered of love, of hope, of struggles overcome through the medium of paint, akin to the glossy reflections of light on canvas, capturing the essence of life in a way that mere words could not. Each letter unveiled more than just her grandmother's art. They revealed insights into the challenges that came with them, the hesitation, the misgivings, yet also the triumphs. Would she have the courage to embrace those same challenges, to understand their significance, and ultimately create her own vision? The air crackled around her as realization seeped in. This journey she sought could forge a new path for her marriage, a life of mutual support for both her art and her relationship with Jake. As she contemplated the letters, she felt a surge of determination to weave her storytelling through art into their shared narrative. As the night deepened, Emma found Jake standing at the corner, hope flickering in his eyes. They exchanged a look that was alive with possibilities, but a shadow loomed over them. Would they be able to navigate the complexities of ambition and partnership as they began this new chapter? Emma knew then that the battle would not be just against traditional expectations, but also against her own fears of what stepping into her authentic self might cost her. She would need to confront whether they could both grow as individuals and unite as partners. Little did they know,
The journey toward understanding each other's worlds would soon lead them to confront the very foundation of who they believed they were. As the stars twinkled above, Emma resolved to embrace both her chosen path and the creative fire within her.
Would this decision empower her to connect with Jake, or would it spark a conflict that would redefine both their destinies? The unknown awaited, echoing with both promise and peril. The morning after the wedding dawned bright and clear, a canvas stretching infinitely before her, yet Emma felt a weight settling in her chest. The joy of the previous evening had been overshadowed by the duality of her emotions. She had pledged an everlasting love to Jake, but this very commitment seemed to challenge the deep-rooted yearning stirring within her for artistic expression. As she rolled out of bed, the smell of fresh coffee wafted through the air, mingling with the faint scent of the flowers from the night before. She caught sight of herself in the mirror. The reflection revealed a woman who seemed both changed and unchanged, newly minted as a wife, yet grappling with a familiar longing to explore her artistic self. Deciding to venture outside, Emma slipped on a light jacket and made her way to the small garden that surrounded their new home. She had never truly considered how the quiet of nature could foster creativity or revelation, but it beckoned her now like a friend. The chirping birds seemed to echo her inner call, drawing her closer to a decision. In the midst of blooming marigolds and drowsy sunflowers, Emma settled on a bench, fingers running over the stack of letters still clutched tightly in her hand. Each one held memories, lessons, and the unmistakable flicker of encouragement from her grandmother. The correct course lay somewhere within their wisdom, waiting for her to draw it out. With the sun warming her skin, she unfolded the first letter again, tracing her grandmother's elegant script. The passage spoke of balance, the juggling act between dreams and reality. Her grandmother had struggled to carve out time for art amid the responsibilities of adulthood. Emma thought about her own commitments. What would it take to honor her grandmother's legacy while standing true to herself? As a wave of determination surged through her, Emma recalled a conversation with Jake that flickered at the edge of her memory. He had mentioned his ambitions casually, discussing sleeping in on weekends to spend time on personal projects. Emma had jested about a creative retreat, but never truly followed up. What if she proposed that very thing now? An open dialogue, a chance to explore each other's worlds without fear of stepping on toes. Suddenly, a new plan began to shape in her mind. Over the next week, she could seek out community workshops and art classes, hoping to tap into that artistic vein, while Jake pursued his video projects. They could support one another, sharing experiences rather than losing their individual pursuits amid the demands of their life together. However, a lingering doubt gnawed at her mind. What if Jake didn't understand her direction? What if he felt abandoned or pressured?
Emma needed to confront that fear directly. Returning inside, she found Jake seated at their small kitchen table, an open laptop in front of him, and a frown etched across his features. The photograph of their wedding day hung on a nearby wall, yet even that joyful moment felt miles away now. Emma took a breath, steadying herself, feeling the weight of her own intentions. "Hey, do you have a minute to talk?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt. Jake looked up, surprised. "Sure, what's on your mind?" Emma had a choice to make, to protect her burgeoning dreams or lay it all out on the table. Taking a deep breath, she began to outline her desire to merge art into her life, to explore the potential it had without fear or secrecy. Would he embrace this side of her? Could he see that this was not a question of loyalty, but of growth? As she spoke, she saw a flicker of understanding spark in Jake's eyes, but also traces of uncertainty. The room felt charged with anticipation and hesitation.
This discussion, she realized, wasn't merely about her choosing art. It challenged the very foundation of their marriage and how they envisioned their futures. Could they move forward hand in hand, each nurturing their blossoming spirits? Unbeknownst to Emma, her declaration would be only the beginning. The path she was forging would soon lead them down an uncertain road, one where personal aspirations collided with shared commitments. As they spoke, the stirring excitement of what was to come clashed with the looming tension of failure and misunderstanding. "What if exploring this side of you changes everything?" Jake asked, his voice low, resonating with both curiosity and caution. Emma's heart raced. She had opened a door, one that perhaps could not be closed again. Would they step through together, or would they retreat into their separate worlds? As she searched for the right words, the weight of hidden potential loomed large, waiting to either meld into their lives or drive them apart. What awaited them both on the other side of this conversation would determine the fate of their artistry and partnership. Would their commitment become their greatest masterpiece, or would it reveal cracks in the foundation they had just built? The sun hung high, casting shadows across the kitchen table, where Jake still wore an expression that cut through the hopeful atmosphere Emma had conjured. The vulnerability of her artistic ambitions danced between them, a fragile thread woven into the fabric of their new lives. "Emma," he began, his voice trailing off, hesitation tangled in his furrowed brow. "I just need a minute to process this." The words stung more than she anticipated. The very clarity she sought felt overshadowed by doubt. She bit her lip, battling against the surge of insecurity rising in her chest. Perhaps this was not the supportive response she had envisioned. "Of course," she replied, nodding, the stiffness in her posture betraying her calm facade. She could feel the weight of silence stretching, the buzz of unspoken thoughts crackling like static electricity. During the quiet that enveloped them, Emma's mind swirled with images of her grandmother's letters. The warmth of her wise words juxtaposed the sting of the present moment. Was pursuing her artistry truly selfish? Could it lead to a clearer space for their aspirations rather than fractures? "Let's find a way to integrate this," she suggested, using the calm that belied the storm in her heart. "Your projects and my art. We can draft new schedules, divvy up responsibilities. I know the weekends mean a lot to you, and she paused, collecting her thoughts, "I can create at night. It'll be like we're both pursuing our dreams in tandem." Jake ran his hair through his hair, frustration flickering in those deep-set eyes. "But what if this doesn't work? What if you find you prefer spending your time on this instead of with me?" His voice trembled, rattled with apprehension. Emma felt her resolve teeter. His fears held a weight of their own, their newfound union swaying on the brink of a cliff. Reality had a way of reshaping desires as they navigated their evolving identities. "I want you to succeed too, Jake. This isn't about choosing one thing over another. It's about choosing each other while still being ourselves." "But what if your art becomes an obsession? What if in pursuing this you lose sight of us?" The walls felt closer, the morning light dimming into a dull quiet. What could she offer to quell that fear? She needed to prove that her creative aspirations wouldn't shadow their relationship, but could enrich it. Maybe the heart of the matter lay not in her journey, but in theirs together. Brimming with determination to dissolve his worries, she stood and crossed the small distance to his side. Leaning against the table, she searched for clarity. "Let's structure this. I'll sign up for a class this week, just a starting point. I'll share my pieces with you, and we can work through any anxiety together. Besides, you know you'll probably get a kick out of critiquing my work." A chuckle escaped him, lightening the mood, if only briefly, but shadows lingered in his eyes, reminding her that laughter might not mask deeper fears. As the day unfolded, Emma rushed through her responsibilities but continued to feel unfocused. The letters became her anchor, a connection to the voice she carried within. In moments between chores, she navigated texts and online forums, plunging into the local art scene. There was a workshop a few blocks away, a lively community, she hoped, where kindred spirits might also be anxious to express themselves. Returning home later that evening, a tinge of excitement surged through her veins. Emma found Jake sketching at the table, his laptop replaced by a small notebook. A simple pencil lay in his grip, and she could see the lines dance across the page as he lost himself in his craft.
"Hey," she said softly, settling nearby. "What are you working on?" He glanced up, a smile breaking his earlier consternation. "Just a storyboard for my latest video idea." Their eyes met, bridging a gap that had felt insurmountable hours before. In that moment, she knew the potential of their partnership, weaving creativity and connection. "Why don't we share?" Emma proposed, her confidence sparking. "I can show you my sketches once I get going. We could create a feedback loop of sorts. It could be fun." Jake sat back, considering that. "Yeah, I'd like that." The warmth returned to his gaze, a promise that perhaps they would rise together rather than apart. Just then, Emma caught a glimpse of her phone buzzing, a notification tinged with possibility, a response from an art workshop she had applied to earlier. As she opened the message, she felt the weight of decision. Would she take the plunge into this world of art, potentially reshaping everything they'd just begun? The words danced before her eyes, but uncertainty hung in the air. Should she commit, or would that risk everything she'd aimed to build with Jake? "What does it say?" he asked, leaning closer, curiosity igniting, yet something darker lurked at the edges of his expression. Emma hesitated, blind with mounting tension. This could be the moment that forced her hand, for better or worse. As she turned the screen toward him, a deep chill washed over her. What if this revealed paths they weren't prepared to face together? A decision loomed, and she couldn't shake the sensation that whatever lay ahead might redraw the very parameters of their marriage. "I think it's time I show you," Emma said, her voice barely above a whisper. In that instant, she could feel the gravity of her choice shifting, the stakes rising, and the question that remained pierced through the air like a sharp intake of breath. How would it reshape the vision they shared? As Emma turned the phone to reveal the workshop's message, her heart raced. The screen glowed with words that felt both inviting and menacing. The Arts Center was offering a series of classes this fall, focusing on various mediums, and it provided an exhibition opportunity at the end of the term. For artists, such chances were gold, promises of validation and growth. But for Emma, it felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. Jake's eyes widened as he read over her shoulder. His initial excitement was palpable, but the fleeting sparkle dimmed quickly. "You're really considering this?" His voice was steady, but underscored with unease, as if he would still prefer to remain in the realm of dreams rather than confront the reality of her burgeoning passion. Emma inhaled deeply, a surge of adrenaline fueling her as she sought clarity. "Yes, I think I am. This could be a chance for me to—" She searched her mind, trying to find words strong enough to justify her yearning. "To explore the part of me that I've tucked away for so long."
"This workshop could help me solidify my skills and confidence." His shoulders slumped slightly, a physical manifestation of his hesitation. "But what if it doesn't go the way you hope? What if you end up not liking it? Or even worse, what if you love it and it changes everything?" The words hung between them, thick with concern and reality. Emma could feel the push and pull between her aspirations and Jake's apprehensions. Yet she also sensed a burgeoning strength in her resolve, a calling building beneath her skin that demanded expression. "Jake, I need this. For so long I've been afraid of what people would think, of taking risks. But now," she was regaining her ground,
Now I realize that my own happiness matters. I can't keep dismissing this part of myself. Yet beneath her determination lay the tremors of doubt. Could pursuing artistic aspirations genuinely coexist with their life together? The prospect of failure loomed as large as her dreams. Why did wresting her own aspirations from the grip of insecurity feel so terrifying? Jake shifted his gaze away, lost in thought, and Emma could see the tension etched on his features. It was a moment of reckoning, not just for her dreams, but for their union. She took a deep breath, allowing the unease to coexist with her resolve. "You know I'd never put you aside, right? This isn't an end, just a way for me to grow. It might even help us." They had already agreed to share their projects, make room for each other's growth. But would embarking on this journey create distance, or could it actually forge a stronger bond? The question settled like a stone in her gut. Before she could second-guess herself, she continued, "Look, let's do this together. I'll commit to the workshop, and in return, let's set aside time for both of our projects. Ours could be our focal point rather than a distraction." Jake met her gaze, the fight in his deep-set eyes tempered by an inch of understanding. "But how do we know that won't just become an additional strain?" Emma took another breath, her inner compass guiding her. "We establish boundaries. Maybe we dedicate certain hours to our work. I can show you my art, and you can show me your ideas. Sharing might lessen the weight of worry." He slowly nodded, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. Still, the unspoken fears lingered in the atmosphere. "You really believe this can work?" "Believe? No," Emma admitted, a candidness pushing through her vulnerability. "But I see potential, Jake. I see possibilities, if we navigate them together." With the decision looming, Emma's mind began to whirl with visions of creative workshops, interactions with fellow artists, the thrill of sharing her work, and perhaps most frightening of all, the risk of vulnerability. Each thought propelled her toward commitment while simultaneously amplifying her trepidation.
Jake's silence bore weight, and she sensed he was torn between wanting her to flourish and fearing the cracks it might create in their foundation. "What about you?" Emma ventured, realizing she had been so focused on her ambitions that she hadn't checked in on Jake. "Are you still excited about your own projects, your storyboards?" His expression brightened a fraction. "Yeah, actually. I've got some ideas that actually excite me. I could use your feedback, too." "Then let's do this," she said, trying to curtail the gnawing uncertainty. "We'll plan a new schedule right now. I want us both to feel supported in our pursuits, whatever they may be." As metal creaked within both their minds, two artists, both creative yet cautious, she sensed the ground beneath them begin to shift. But somewhere in that tangled blend of hope and fear, Emma felt an ember deep inside her spark to life. Just as he reached for the pencil again, Emma hesitated, glancing back at her phone. The workshop opened its doors the following week. The thought spiraled through her mind. The exhilarating edge of a new beginning lay before her, but would this first step send them tumbling in ways they couldn't predict? "Are you ready?" she asked, a tremor threading her voice. Every word felt like undoing the careful knot tying their collective future together. Dreams were drawing nearer, exposing vulnerabilities that could either shatter or strengthen their bond with each brushstroke and line drawn. And as she faced the screen once again, she understood. The true challenge lay not just in pursuing art, but in discovering the hard truths that lurked beneath their desires, truths that could irrevocably change the course of their lives together. Would she gather the courage to venture into this new frontier, or would the fears of her partner hold her back? "I think it's time I showed you," Emma said again, though this time uncertainty faded into a resolute whisper. Tomorrow would reveal if she could face the storm within her, a struggle far more complex than simple choices. It was the odyssey toward a connection reborn, or a conclusion delicately woven away from what might have been. And the future hung, exhilarating and terrifying in the balance.
As the dawn light seeped through the curtains, Emma lay awake, enmeshed in a tangle of thoughts. The weight of her decision pressed down on her, a mix of exhilaration and apprehension coiled tightly in her chest. This was more than just a workshop. It felt like a leap into the unknown, and with it came visions of painting, sculpting, creating, each canvas a new exploration of her identity. Yet, along with these vibrant dreams came the specter of potential failure. She rolled out of bed and padded quietly to her makeshift studio in the corner of the living room. It had become her sanctuary over the past months, filled with half-finished canvases, brushes, and tubs of paint that seemed to reflect her scattered emotions.
Today, however, the studio felt different. Facing an empty canvas, Emma's breath hitched. It was just white space, but to her it formed a boundary, an invitation yet to be accepted, a challenge waiting for her engagement. As she dipped her brush into crimson paint, memories of skeptical glances and dismissive comments from the past flashed through her mind. "You're just a hobbyist," they would say, dismissing her passion as a mere pastime. Yet those words now ignited a defiance within her. "I am more than that," she thought fiercely as she moved the brush across the canvas, leaving bold strokes in its wake. Simultaneously, doubt loomed. Would any of this truly matter in the grand scope of her life? Would taking this leap compromise her relationship with Jake? Memories of their discussions echoed, his fears, her reassurances, all of them filled with a mixture of hope and worry. Emma took a moment, stepping back from the canvas to confront the reality she and Jake had crafted together. They had formed a connection deeper than comfort. It was built on shared dreams, creativity, and mutual support. But could her ambition coexist harmoniously with his? Fingers still stained with paint, she pulled out her phone to check for updates about the workshop. Unfortunately, it was the same vague language. Discover your artistic voice and elevate your skills. The promises felt almost platitudinal now. What if the experience sank under the weight of these expectations? What if she encountered others far more talented and confident? With a sigh, Emma swallowed the rising tide of doubt. This was all part of the journey, her journey. Not to prove anything to anyone else, but to unreel the fire that seemed to flicker steadily inside her, waiting for the right moment to blaze. She needed to act on her passion, not just self-indulgently, but seriously. This opportunity was not about temporary satisfaction. It was about claiming her space in the artistic world. The workshop could lend her tools to refine her craft, but the drive had to come from within. Lost in contemplation, she found herself making a mental list. She would set goals for the workshop, create new pieces regularly, share them with trusted friends, seek constructive feedback, and embody the growth she craved. This would not be a one-off event. It would mark the beginning of her artistic evolution. As the hours passed, Emma made a commitment to herself. She would embrace vulnerability, both in her art and the relational fabric with Jake. She would share her progress, her challenges, and allow him into her creative world. In return, she would invite him to open up about his own projects. That alignment felt essential. At lunch, she sat across from Jake, and the conversation flowed effortlessly about the goals for their projects. Her heart raced, and a smile threatened to break through her focused demeanor.
As they plotted time blocks throughout the week for their work, Emma noticed a flicker of excitement in Jake's eyes. "Maybe I could come to the workshop," he suggested hesitantly. Just to support and see what you're up to." Emma paused, a single brushstroke echoing in her mind. Fear. What did she truly want from this endeavor? Victory in her pursuit, or validation from his presence? "I appreciate that, but I think it's important for us to have our own separate spaces as well. Our art needs to reflect our individual journeys," she replied, measuring her words carefully. A flicker of uncertainty crossed his face, but he respected her position. "I see that. Just know I'm here if you need me, okay?" His voice, layered with caution, affirmed her choice, but also hinted at his desire for closeness. Closing her eyes momentarily, she resigned herself to what lay ahead, an avalanche of self-discovery mixed with the exhilarating potential of artistic expression. Emma felt galvanized by the experience, ready to embrace the ridicule of imperfection and the glow of creativity. But as she daydreamed about what her first class would entail, a sudden thought sliced through the warmth of her anticipation. What if the feedback she received wasn't as glowing as she hoped? What if overcoming the barriers of fear and self-doubt led her to discover deeper insecurities she had buried beneath layers of denial? Her pulse quickened again, but this time it wasn't out of fear. It was the unmistakable pull of readiness. The workshop's door would open soon, the clock was ticking, and latent challenges loomed. And with that realization, Emma felt alive, on the brink of becoming someone she had always known existed but had never truly embraced. She exhaled slowly, a quiet determination settling within her. "I can't wait for tomorrow," she whispered to the empty room. Just as she turned back to the canvas, a knock at the door startled her. The moment she opened it felt like the convergence of all her uncertainties. A familiar voice greeted her, but its implications twisted an unease in her stomach. The time had come for her to face a confrontation she hadn't anticipated. Would this conversation propel her forward, or would it unearth unresolved fears that threatened to drown her newfound clarity? Emma hesitated, her hand hovering over the doorknob as the familiar voice echoed in her thoughts. For a split second, she considered retreating to the safety of her canvas, where colors danced without judgment. But the sound of Jake's voice pierced through the protective layer she had carefully constructed around herself. "Hey, it's me," Jake said, stepping inside. The slight hesitance in his voice reflected the mixed emotions she felt, anxiety tinged with anticipation. "Hi," she replied, summoning a smile that felt fragile, like a thin glaze of paint over a rough canvas. "What's up?" Jake's eyes scanned the room, taking in the chaos of her studio.
"I know I said I'd give you space, but I couldn't help but wonder how you're feeling about everything." She felt the room constrict. The weight of his concern felt both comforting and constraining, a push-pull of intimacy that she feared would complicate her journey. "I'm excited, but also a bit on edge. The usual nerves." "I get that," he said, stepping closer. "But I've been thinking, maybe we should talk about where we're headed, too." Emma strained to maintain the facade of composure. "What do you mean?" Her heart raced as she attempted to process his intent. His brow furrowed, a look of vulnerability etched on his face. "I feel like both of us are on the brink of something significant," but he hesitated, searching for the right words. "Are we really growing together, or are we just coexisting?" The question landed heavily between them, almost like a splash of cold water on her warm thoughts about the workshop. She started, but the words caught in her throat. Would acknowledging her ambition mean pulling away from him? What if pursuing her artistic dreams created distance instead of fostering connection? "Jake, I want us to succeed, to support each other, but I'm worried that as you elevate your creativity, I'm not keeping pace." His honesty unsettled her. An internal clash brewed. Jake's fixation on their relationship was an uncomfortable reminder that her ambition might carry unintentional consequences. "But I need this for myself, Jake. I need to explore who I am as an artist, separate from us." His expression tightened, a mixture of understanding and discontent playing out. "I know, but what if you get lost in it? What if this drives a wedge between us?" "You won't be left behind," she insisted, desperation creeping into her words. "This is my shot at becoming the person I want to be. Can't you see that?" Jake's silence echoed in the small studio, filled with the tension of unspoken thoughts. He shifted his weight, glancing down at the paint-streaked floor.
I just fear it could lead to, I don't know, to us drifting apart. Could this be true? Was her desire for artistic growth an invitation to embrace independence, or was it an unwitting catalyst for separation? Maybe we both need to confront what we really want, she said cautiously, trying to steer them toward progress. What are your aspirations? What's holding you back? Jake met her gaze. The flicker of vulnerability ignited some connection between them. I want to write a novel, but I keep putting it off. I've been afraid it wouldn't be good enough. His admission struck a chord within her. They were both grappling with insecurities, his concealed behind a veil of stoicism, hers flooding forth in bursts of creativity. Why not start now? Emma suggested, a spark of determination igniting within her. Have you ever shared your work with anyone? He shook his head, a bittersweet smile forming. No, I'm terrified. What if they think it's trash?
Feedback isn't trash, it's growth. If we want to support each other, we have to be brave. Together. The intensity of their conversation enveloped them, shifting from anxiety to a shared quest for artistic authenticity. Could we both hold each other accountable? He proposed slowly, a hint of eagerness threading through his tone. Maybe even share our work, no matter how rough? A sense of relief washed over her. This was not just about her struggle. He was willing to venture into his own uncharted territory as well. Definitely, she replied, her spirit buoyed by the prospect of aligning their creative journeys. Our art can elevate us both, but we have to leap into the uncertainty. Just then, the room felt charged with potential, a vibrant canvas waiting for their brushstrokes. But as Jake leaned in, a newfound hope shimmering between them, Emma couldn't shake an undercurrent of doubt. Would they be enough for each other once they embraced their ambitions, or were they on the verge of risk that could redefine their connection irreparably? The uncertainties hung unanswered, the promise of tomorrow's workshop brewing excitement and trepidation within her. The real challenge would begin when they both took the leap, together, yet utterly apart. Because what if, in their pursuit of greatness, they risked losing the very foundation they had built? The clock ticked ominously, marking not just the passage of time, but the challenge ripening on the horizon. Emma felt adrenaline course through her as she realized the moment of truth was fast approaching. As they both eyed their aspirations, would the leap strengthen their bond or unravel it completely? The morning of the first workshop dawned, a soft glow illuminating Emma's heart and mind as she prepared for a day that felt monumental. She stood before her easel, the blank canvas taunting her, but resonating with potential, a stark contrast to her unease. Today was the day she would embrace her identity as an artist and step boldly into her new narrative. With each stroke of the brush, she not only painted, but reaffirmed a promise to herself, resolute that her journey would honor both her dreams and her commitment to Jake. In the vibrant colors, she saw reflections of her hopes, her fears, and her grandmother's lingering voice urging her to chase authenticity. As she walked into the workshop later that day, the room was alive with energy. Artists of all ages mingled, each eager to unveil their stories through their art. Emma felt an electric current flow through her veins as she approached her easel, the chatter around her fading to a mere hum. The workshop leader, a seasoned artist with feathers in her hair, welcomed the participants with open arms, acknowledging the fears that often accompany creative endeavors. Remember, art isn't about perfection, it's about expression, about telling your story, she said, and Emma felt her spirit ignite. Diving headfirst into the exercises, Emma poured her heart onto the canvas. Every challenge served as a reminder of her direction, battling self-doubt and fears of inadequacy. The other participants offered triggering feedback, igniting conversation, critique, and affirmation. In those moments, Emma began to understand how collaboration could foster not only individual growth, but also an interconnectedness that spanned beyond her expectations.
Returning home, the excitement bubbled beneath the surface as she recounted her experiences to Jake. She shared moments of vulnerability alongside spontaneous creativity, laughter resonating through her voice and filling their kitchen. "It was liberating," she exclaimed, gesturing animatedly. "I realized that connecting with others didn't take away from our relationship. It actually enriched it." Jake smiled, his own energy shifting. "I can see how much this means to you," he replied, pride lighting up his features. "I think I'm ready to put my writing out there too. Should we create a feedback night? Bring our work and share it over dinner?" Emma's heart soared, recognizing the significance of their evolving companionship. "Absolutely. It'll be like our own little creative sanctuary," she enthused, envisioning the two of them side by side in their artistic pursuits. As the weeks unfolded, Emma and Jake found themselves enveloped in a rhythm that balanced their individual pursuits with their shared life. The feedback nights became a cherished routine, spaces where neither guarded their hearts too closely, instead embracing the brilliance of their respective journeys. Emma watched as Jake took bold strides with his storytelling, weaving intricate plots that revealed not just his craft, but also layers of his soul. Each painting she created bore the weight of purpose, tied intricately to her grandfather's legacy and her renewed identity as a wife and artist. Emma's confidence flourished, leading to her first exhibition, a culmination of months of grit, passion, and transformation. Each piece stood tall, reflecting more than visual expression. They told stories of ancestry, dreams, and the triumph of carving out one's individuality amidst love and commitment. On the opening night, surrounded by friends and family, the accolades poured forth. The warmth of recognition echoed deep within her, igniting an understanding of what it meant to walk this path, hand in hand with Jake, yet entirely her own. As Jake stood beside her, beaming with pride, Emma soaked in the atmosphere. The gallery buzzed with joyous conversations about her work, validating her decision to embrace her true self without sacrificing her bonds. She felt liberated, the fears that once shackled her dissipating like morning mist. In that moment, Emma fully understood that juggling her aspirations and relationship didn't mean diminishing either, but rather enacting an alchemy that enhanced their connection.
Their partnership thrived, woven together with threads of support for each other's journeys. As the night concluded, Jake turned to her, his gaze intense and earnest. "I'm so proud of you, Emma. I see who you are now." The resonance of his words settled like a prideful acknowledgement, anchoring deep within her heart. Emma smiled, the light of active fulfillment twinkling in her eyes. She stood as both a wife and an artist, uniquely and beautifully entwined. Together, they had conquered the fears that sought to divide them, crafting a future filled not only with love, but with vibrant individual dreams. Now more than ever, Emma realized that she was not merely a reflection of her past, but a vibrant canvas, continually being painted, colors intermingling, stories weaving, and the unyielding spirit of creativity forever guiding her hand. The tapestry of their life was just beginning. She and Jake were ready to design any landscape they envisioned, embarking on a new chapter filled with potential. And with that in mind, Emma felt profound gratitude, not only for unlocking her artistic fullness, but for the journey of navigating both her individuality and their shared vision, a journey that had the power to transform their lives indefinitely. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support for incredible storytelling. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. What did you think of Emma's transformation? Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to share the journey of personal overcoming. Don't wait even one more second to be part of something bigger.